Let's try this again. Hey everybody, this is JJ with Thrivestry, and we're here to talk about the CrossFit Open. I'm here doing this live as I record it, so hopefully I got two cameras going to capture this for YouTube, and then I also wanted to do it live. So if you guys are tuning in, I'm going to go through a full breakdown of the 18.2 and 0.2a workouts, as well as pacing and all kinds of movement stuff. And then now that we have the live camera, we'll be able to do some Q&A. So I think this is a great workout. Two movements, it's a squat and a burpee. I love it, and it's a shorter workout. And then of course we have that extra scoring opportunity, which I think is huge for creating a better test to find out who gets, where you place in the world, or if you can make regionals. I hope they do it again. I hope they do multiple weeks of multiple testing points. I think it's going to be a lot better. So if you did week one and you weren't super thrilled with your performances, just remember that now instead of 5 workouts, there'll be at least 6 scoring opportunities. So that one isn't going to be as critical as if it was only 5. So let's jump right into it. So overall, don't get no reps, right? No reps. As usual, we want to avoid no reps, but especially when there's a workout that only has 110 total reps and it's a very short workout, those no reps are going to really punish you, especially if you get no rep on a burpee. So we really want to avoid no reps and make sure you're deliberate and you practice this stuff beforehand and do it with your judge. I really recommend you guys practice the new burpee standard if you haven't done it yet. So before, like multiple times before you go into the workout. But we'll talk about that in a little bit more. So one of the things, a lot of people get tunnel vision. They'll be thinking about the metcon portion, the workout portion. They won't be thinking about the lifting portion. So what you guys should be doing then is you'll want to make sure that you warm up your clean beforehand. So make sure you get a bar, get some plates, and actually warm up that clean before the workout starts, so you kind of know where you're at. And get the body ready. Do it with your belt on. Everything if you're wearing knee sleeves, do it with knee sleeves on. Then so that way you have a good idea of where you're going to end up. Now, you shouldn't just warm up to your opening weight, right? And we'll talk about how the approach for that workout. You should actually warm up to more than your opening weight to kind of find out where, again, kind of how that's going to feel and where you're at. So, for example, we want to test the load a little bit. So we want to see, beyond your opening load, maybe a couple reps beyond, so that it's not a surprise to your body when you hit that weight. And like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Then back the bar off to a really easy load. Now, depending on how this stuff gets in your head, if you're one of those people that if you miss a rep, you'll freak out. Let's say you just rush too soon after finishing the workout and you do that first rep and you get a fault or no rep, then you definitely want to start even easier. What I recommend is starting with a really easy load, just to check the box to make sure you get a rep in case something goes wrong, or you want to get it, depending on when you finish, you want to be able to just jump right into it, right? You don't want to have to, you have to take a long time before doing it, and then for some reason you don't get all the attempts at the load in. As far as the workout goes, fast transitions, especially with the 1, 2, 3, 4 format, if you dally in the beginning especially, it's going to really hammer your time. One of the benefits of the 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10 format is that it kind of it's self-regulating in the beginning, right? So it's going to be very easy to pace because you can't really go that fast because you have to change movements so often. That changes a little bit toward the end, and we'll talk about pacing a little bit more later as well. And then, but just keep in mind that it's going to get really hard really fast, right? So right around when you pass those 7s and you do those 8, 9s, 10s, that's half the workout, right? So half of the reps is basically finishing the 7s. I think if you finish the 7s, it's 56 reps. And so if you come out really hot out of the gates, you're going to be even more punished on the 8s, 9s, and 10s because that's only half the workout. So you may feel like you're doing, oh, I'm killing it, I'm doing great, I'm going to beat Noah Olson, and you realize, wait a minute, you need a reality check here that you're not doing such a fast first half is going to be, you better be a badass if you plan on maintaining that pace. But that being said, you should go hard on the dumbbells and the burpees. If you're much more of a lifter athlete, you're still going to score high. You can try to game this one and pace that out, but that's going to give you less time to finish the clean portion. And even if you are a stronger athlete, you still want to go a little bit faster on that pace so that you can then have more time to get more reps in, even if you are a little bit more tired. The reality is that if you're one of those athletes that is going to do really well in the clean, you know, you like I said, you may not completely destroy yourself on the metcon, but you don't want to try to, like, you know, go slow so that you can try to get a bigger clean, because ultimately you won't have enough time to get a big clean in there. So I would recommend go relatively hard on that to give yourself a little bit more time to get more cleans in. We'll talk about the sort of pacing chart down here later. Let's talk about the dumbbell squat. So some things to keep in mind is you need to stand up before you do any sort of squat. So there's no power clean or squat clean. You can't squat down and do the squat curl and then stand up. That is not allowed. So just make sure, and the judges need to know about that, that you have to get those dumbbells up and basically do a muscle clean to make sure that you get credit for that rep. If you don't do that, you get no rep. And again, we're working on no reps on this one. So make sure that when you're, especially in those first rounds, when you're trying to move really fast on rounds, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, to make sure that you're doing it correctly and standing all the way up before you go into the squat position. Now from a rack position, especially in these earlier rounds, getting really kind of wonky or creative with that stuff isn't going to be the best idea. If you guys try to, like, set it here and it's hard to get positioned and stuff, especially in the earlier rounds, it's extra time that's really going to cost you. You might just think about holding it in a front rack position, for example, because this workout we're not really using our upper body very much, so you're not as worried about taxing the upper body. But that being said, I think one of the best ways to do this for most folks is going to be to balance it on the shoulders with the handles pointing up, maybe even putting them together. So if you can use the hex dumbbells, they're a little bit smaller, you'll be able to balance it over your spine and make it more of a back squat than a front squat. A front squat is going to make your quads more tired. It's going to, and it could blow up your back a little bit, and that's going to make the clean later on. So if you can get that weight centered over your back, that's going to be better. And I want to note here, the hands need to be on the dumbbells. So make sure that your hands are touching the dumbbells, however you hold them. You might play around with it. I know different people have different flexibility things, and so you know, just make sure that you have a position that you're comfortable with. But like I said, I think the balancing on the shoulders, if not putting it over the spine, is going to be best. Now hips below the knee, obviously, but also the hips open. So a lot of times when people start to go really fast, again, probably like in rounds like 4, 5, and 6, when they're kind of getting into the rhythm, you'll find yourself you'll be standing up, but you won't be opening the front of your hips. You'll have this forward lean versus bringing the hips through, squeezing the glutes, and standing tall. So just make sure you stand tall with those reps. Make sure they're going below and they're being fully opened. Because like I said, when you're repping these out fast, it's really easy to short that rep. I mentioned the hands on the dumbbells. Now, how much should you break these up? I think most people should probably do this unbroken. For the most part, you know, if you have to rest, try to rest with the dumbbells. Again, that's one of the benefits of resting them on your shoulders or balancing them here. But just keep in mind, if you're balancing on your back, the tendency is to stay forward. So make sure you're still standing up. But try to take those breaths here and rest between reps with them on your shoulders, then setting them down. Now, if you have to set them down, try to hold out until, you know, round 6, 7, and higher, and then just maybe set them down once. I'd rather you go a little bit slower on the burpee so that you can do these unbroken, just because that extra work of picking the weight up, right? And then each round, especially when you get tired, there's going to be a tendency for you guys to be like, and throw the dumbbells down, and they're going to bounce all over the place. And so you're better off, you know, bringing them down under control and setting them down so that you can, so they're not all over the place. And then when you come back to your next round, you have to chase them around. Remember, we're doing 10 rounds of this, so if you start throwing those things down, and you have 9, because the last one doesn't matter, but you have 9 times where you're chasing these dumbbells around, that's going to count. Now, when it comes to the dumbbells and the barbell setup, it's going to be important to have them very close, but not in your way. You know, if you have them too far apart, that transition, those 10 transitions, is going to really start to cost you. So what I recommend is just putting them off to the side, maybe turning 90 degrees so that the dumbbells are even with the bumper plates, so that you're not going to be kicking them when you do your burpee. So just make sure, but keep them as close as possible where you're not going to be kicking them. Let's talk about bar facing burpees. So the new burpee standard is probably more complicated than you realize. If you need to review the standards. I looked at the standards, and there's a couple things that jumped out at me. You're supposed to face the bar before starting the rep, and this is one of the things that I kind of noticed on the open announcement. that Noah Olson was getting away with. I don't know if they're going to change his score or not, or make him redo it, but he was not following the standard that's written that says you have to face the bar before initiating the burpee. So that means that you need to be perpendicular. So if you land and then even if both feet go back but you're kind of sideways, technically you could get no rep on that. So make sure that you're facing the bar when you initiate the burpee, and then when you finish the burpee, face the bar. Now when you jump, you can turn as you jump, you can face it as you jump. That's not the problem. Now this is the other thing. It's a 2-foot jump, which has always been the standard, but it's also a 2-foot landing. They wrote that in there specifically. It's a 2-foot jump and a 2-foot landing. Now that's different. I don't believe they've required both feet landing at the same time. And so if you jump and you land 1-2 with your feet, that's actually not going to be allowed. So you need to make sure you practice this, facing the bar, jumping with both feet out, right? Jumping both feet in, and then over the bar, you've got to do a 2-foot jump. They have to land 2-footed. So it's almost like you want to imagine that your legs are attached so that you're actually, think about them being like tied together or something like that, or somehow attached with a rod so that you're not letting them separate. Now they can go wide, but they can't step forward. Now the big thing is that you're not allowed to step in or step out of the burpee. So just as a reminder, if you haven't checked the standards, after you come over the bar, you're going to face the bar. Your hands will go to the floor, and then you'll do both feet have to go out at the same time. Now what's interesting is there's no requirement for how far you have to go. So if you kind of walk back away from the bar, put your hands way out in front. When you do your 2-footed jump, you'll be able to do that jump out easily, and then you'll be able to do your burpee and then pop up. Now you don't have to jump your feet all the way up to your hands. If you get your feet just close enough, you'll be able to kind of bring yourself up in that V, and you can even walk your hands back to yourself if you didn't jump quite high enough, and then stand up. It doesn't matter how far away you are from the barbell at that point, you can walk up to it to the jump over. So the 2 feet part doesn't have to be 2 feet, and that's the jumping position for jumping over the barbell. It's just that your feet have to move together until you take your hands off the floor. Once your hands are off the floor and you're standing up, you can reposition as much as you want. And so that standard of no stepping out, you can make a really small 2-footed jump and it would still count as long as you're able to kind of bring yourself up to stand up. You might want to double check the moving your hands part. I haven't reviewed the 18.0 standard, but I just know that you're not allowed to step. But I'm pretty sure as long as you can put your hands far away, and as long as you can go from that V position to a standing position and you don't move your feet, you should be good to go. If you want to jump with a staggered foot, that's fine, and you can land with a staggered foot as long as both feet are jumping and landing at the same time. That's the standard. Now, a lot of times when you have burpee workouts, especially burpees over the bar, if we're doing a lot of other shoulder stuff, I'm not going to have people do I'm going to try to avoid a big press up with the burpee. And in this workout, I think if using your arms to get up out of the burpee is going to make you go faster, you should probably use it, because like I said, there's not a lot of other arm stuff in this. So I would go ahead and use the push-up to move that burpee. I'll mention it again. Practice the new burpee standard so that you're comfortable with it before the workout starts. You know, if you're in the moment and you'll go back to your default, right? We don't rise to the occasion, we sink to our level of training. And if you've done thousands, if not tens of thousands of burpees over the years doing this stuff, you're going to default back to what you do. And so you need to make sure, this is a fast and furious workout, so you need to make sure that you're sticking to the standard so you don't get no rep. Practice that new standard right now. Practice it the day of or the day before. Try to get some reps in so you can get into a rhythm and feel the flow of this before going out and doing it. So keeping all this stuff in mind. I talked about hand positioning, right? You don't need to if you put your hands close to your feet, that just means you have to make a much bigger jump when you jump back. If you do this new burpee standard and you put the hands more out in front, that's going to make it, you have to do less of a jump, right? So if you could literally catch yourself way out in front, and then the 2-foot jump is going to be a lot smaller than if you put your hands close to your feet. So think about that when it comes to hand positioning, and again, walking up's okay. So after you kind of do your 2-foot jump out of the burpee, you can walk up to the bar before you jump over. You do not have to, it doesn't have to be like a bunny hop up to the bar and then jump over. But again, the big thing is you have to face the bar before you initiate the burpee, and then you have to jump 2-foot and land 2-footed if you're doing this one RX. So then wherever you finish the workout time-wise, again, you have the remaining amount of time to do a max clean. I think a lot of people are going to be in the 6 to 10 minute range on this workout. We've done some very similar workouts. We did one, I think, a couple months ago called Get Crunked, which was overhead squats with a barbell and then burpees over the bar, but it was 10 down to 1. I like going that way because it kind of regulates people a little bit safer. So if you guys have done Get Crunked, check that workout out. 10 down to 1 overhead squats and burpees over the bar. But for most people, we're going to see a lot of people kind of finishing in that 6 and change up to about 10 minute range. So you're going to have the goal is to have a few minutes to do that rep. Just make sure that you warm up your clean before the workout, and you know kind of how you're feeling. You kind of have all your gear ready. I put some extra notes down here. You should probably wear your Oli shoes so you don't have to change them. Most people aren't going to want to take the time to change them. If you really don't like doing front squats or dumbbell squats and burpees with them, you can wear different shoes. But I think most people would actually benefit from wearing their Oli shoes for these dumbbell squats. And even with all the jumping, it's not that many reps. It's 55 reps of each. So wearing your Oli shoes shouldn't be that detrimental. It probably will make the squats a little bit better than if you do if you wear some other shoes and have to change them. So warm up your clean. Again, make sure you got your belt handy, and if you're going to wear knee sleeves, you might keep the knee sleeves off during this first workout, or you might wear them. Depends on what you're comfortable with. I wouldn't necessarily wear a belt for this workout, but definitely wear a belt for the clean if that's something that you normally do. Now you're going to want to test the load a bit before the workout, so don't just go up to your warm-up weight. Make sure you do the weights a couple weights ahead of that, again, to kind of get your body ready. And then any version is allowed, so you can do power clean, squat clean. You may power clean the first couple reps because they're easier, so go ahead and power clean those reps or split clean the reps when it's a little bit lighter, and then if it gets heavier, then do the squat clean. If that's good. Now, if you want to do power cleans the whole time, that's fine. Obviously, if you're a more accomplished lifter, you probably need to squat clean, but just keep in mind that those quads are going to be blown up. It's going to be really hard to get up out of the hole on the squat clean. Just make sure that you don't do any sort of deadlift and then hang clean. Those are not allowed. The first attempt should be light and early. So a lot of people are going to not know what weight to start with, and you're better off, again, from a mental standpoint, if you come into that weight after the workout and you really struggle or you fail that first rep, it's going to totally mess with your head. So you're much better off just getting that first. You finish the workout within a minute, like pretty quick. Go over and just pick the barbell up and get that first rep done, and that way you've got points on the board, and then you can make adjustments and you can dictate how it feels. Just remember that that first rep is going to feel really heavy. Don't let it discourage you. As time goes on, you're going to start to recover, and that first rep may feel really heavy, but just know that you're recovering as you go, and the next reps may even feel easier, even though they're heavier. Now, one thing I'll point out is that between the time you finish the metcon and do the workout, you need to be really focusing on your breathing. So doing a lot of nasal breathing, which helps calm the central nervous system, will bring your heart rate down. So doing a count breathing where you're trying to breathe in and then a slight hold and then breathe out through your nose, anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds in, 2 to 3 second hold, 5 to 10 seconds out, and the longer the better. And then that's going to really help you recover from that metcon. And then don't just lay down. If you can, try to move around a little bit, try to walk around. You could even get on like an assault bike or Airdyne and kind of move those muscles, because as you flex those muscles, you're going to activate the lymph nodes, and you're going to be helping flush out the muscles so that they're more recovered for your attempt. But of course, that's all relative to when you finish. If you finish it past 8 or 9 minutes, you may not have that much time to really recover. But don't just sit on the floor and you might collapse after for a few seconds, but try to move around as soon as you can to recover, working on your breathing. So you can have someone help change your plates. So if you talk to your judge or you talk to your have a friend and you have your plates set up ahead of time, you should have a plan set of what load you should make. Most people, that first attempt should be, like I said, will probably be 60 to 80% of your max. Something, again, that you should be very comfortable doing easily without pretty much cold. Then that's the first rep you're going to attempt. But then you should know what weights you're going to be doing, so they're not running around chasing plates as you try to set this up. but go ahead and have that person change the plates for you so you can get mentally ready for the next weight, and you don't accidentally misload it because you're so out of it and from the workout and from the stress of doing the open. It should probably be about one rep per minute. So if you finish at minute 9, you may get 2 or 3 attempts before the time runs out. Your mileage may vary, is kind of what I wrote here. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but just know that it's going to be about 1 rep a minute. Some people might be able to get more, some people might be less, but that's kind of what I think most people will benefit from. And like I said, that first rep will feel heavy, and the percent of max will depend on your level at the time. So, you know, if you're a beginner, you may end up PRing on this workout. That wouldn't be a big surprise. If you're more advanced, the chances are you're not going to hit your max, right? Even if you crush this first part, it's just chances are that is when you set a max, it's usually all the stars are aligned and you've kind of rested and everything's perfect and you've taken a lot of time to work up to that weight. But it's not going to be the case in this workout. That doesn't mean that you may not get that high, but what that probably means is that your old PR, your old max, wasn't your true max. It was probably just an old max that you are stronger than you were before. So that's it as far as the movements go. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them in here to the live, and I'll try to answer them. But let's talk about pacing. You know, I could come up with a super complicated chart like I usually do because I love spreadsheets and seeing the numbers. But ultimately, what it really this is a fast workout, and trying to look at the clock and coordinate isn't going to be super effective on this workout. Probably the most important checkpoint is that halfway point. So when you finish the 7s, you're halfway done with the reps. And you can even look at the guys who did the workout earlier for the announcement. They both were right around 2:05 when they finished the 7s. So when they and then they both finished in 4 something, right? So because of the transitions, that works. Even though half the reps are here, you go just a little bit slower, and a lot of people will go a lot slower here because they're going to be tired. So if you come out, you want to think about, okay, how many minutes do I want to have for the end of the workout? And you want to say, okay, I'm going to try to pace this to where I'm not blown up at that time. So if you're trying to finish it in, for example, 5 minutes, you should be able to finish the 7s at around 2.5 minutes and not be completely destroyed, right? So that you can kind of go harder here with the rest of the workout. And then same thing for any one of these minute ranges. So for a 6-minute finish, you should be at 3 minutes. For an 8-minute, you should be at 4. So if you finish those 7s at 4 and you're feeling pretty good, that's a good sign that you're going to be able to maintain that pace. If you try to go too hot, you're going to feel really good, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to crush this, and then you're going to get to that time, and they're going to finish those 7s and be like, oh man, now I got to do 8, and that's not a good sign. So that's a sign that you need to slow down a little bit on that set of 8 so that you can try to pace it out, right? So if you finish the 7s and you're starting to feel it, you probably went a little too fast early on, and then you need to be careful in rounds 8 and 9 so that you have a good score. So I hope that makes sense. For you guys who are here live, let's see. So anyone can load the weight for you. Haven't seen the standards yet. Yes, that's they showed they had people helping them load the weights on the open. It doesn't say it in the standards that you can't have somebody open it. You can only use 1 barbell and 1 pair of dumbbells. But they had people doing it in the opens demonstration, so you should be able to have somebody change the plates for you. But again, communication is going to be important, so make sure that you have a plan and you kind of know where you're at and you have the right coin plates and stuff. Pro tip: if you have a 1-pound plate, maybe you don't have half-pound plates, but you have a 1-pound plate, you can load the half-pound plate onto one side, and it's not going to change your clean that much. You won't even notice it, but that'll get you that extra plate, so that extra pound. So for example, if you're going for a 135 as your opener, put a 1 pound on one side and do 136. Maybe even 2 1-pound plates here at 137. That's going to keep you from tying all those people who are doing 5 or 10-pound jumps for the rest of the workout. Just keep that 1-pound plate on the entire time. I think Noah Olson did something similar, so it shouldn't be that shouldn't be too groundbreaking. But for you guys, if you have that opportunity, you could, if your gym doesn't have that or you don't have enough of those in your gym, you can use a 2.5-pound plate on one side. So if you use a 2.5-pound plate on one side, if you're lifting anything over 135 pounds, you won't even notice a 2.5-pound plate on one side. you know, or just make sure you put it on your right side or your power side, so you won't even, you shouldn't even notice it. If it really gets in your head, you can always just adjust your grip like slightly, like a fraction of an inch toward that plate, and then it'll actually be balanced, right? So don't use the lines.